I'm always quick to decry the attacks by Mysterians on America's institutions. But I believe the president has also attacked an American institution, perhaps one of our most beloved, and that's the United States Postal Service. He brought in a new hitman, a guy named Louis DeJoy, to be the Postmaster General. Well, DeJoy is just a major Trump donor. And he was brought in under the guise of, and this is true, of course, the post office is now, blockbuster in a Netflix world. It's losing money, it's losing billions of dollars, but it still is delivering the mail, and it's a constitutional requirement, if I'm not mistaken, to have a post office. And while it might be wise of Trump to stop the bleeding in the post office, his timing is bad because he's virtually admitting that this will prevent people from voting by mail during a pandemic. So he decides to bring in this guy, DeJoy, and what's happened is, he's eliminated overtime, late delivery, they've closed mail sorting machines, they've taken mailboxes off the street, and now the postal workers themselves are saying, look, you're putting us in a position where these ballots might not arrive on time, and the president has acknowledged that he doesn't want to provide the agency with any money because he wants to undercut its ability to process what is expected to be a record number of mail-in ballots. Look, I'm not a mail-in ballot guy, and I don't like it at all. But during a pandemic, you can imagine perfect health.
Perfect health.
You can imagine during a pandemic how many millions of Americans will choose to vote by mail. And Trump can't stand in the way of that. He can't bring in a guy to blow up the post office 3 months before an election under the guise of, we have to make this thing more profitable. I'm very concerned as a postal worker that there could be delayed ballots because we've essentially been instructed to slow the mail down, said Doug Brown, a postal staffer and president of the American Postal Workers Union chapter in Indiana. The agency's new leader, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, a major Trump donor who has investments in companies that compete with the post office, like UPS, stressing that the cost-cutting measures will make the service more profitable. Next, a word went around that retail post offices were cutting business hours. Then mail processing machines started getting dismantled. And the agency's iconic, that has to be Foghorn.
That's got to get the horn right there.
Blue mailboxes began to get removed from American streets. The result is the growing concern about the agency's ability to deliver mail-in ballots in the upcoming election. If we were left to do our jobs, they would get out on time. Michael Sinelli, a postal truck driver and union shop steward in New York, said of mailed ballots. The Postal Service's Board of Governors tapped DeJoy to head the agency earlier this year, making the 63-year-old former supply chain CEO the first Postmaster General in nearly 2 decades who was not a career postal employee. Since taking over the service in June, DeJoy has instituted a series of operational changes that have delayed mail and infuriated members of Congress. Memos obtained by the AP show postal leadership has moved to halt overtime and late delivery trips that are sometimes needed to make sure mail arrives on time, with one document stating one aspect of these changes that may be difficult for employees is that temporarily we may see mail left behind or mail on the workroom floor or docks. No, you bleeps. You're not messing with the post office. I'm descended from a postmaster. My great-grandfather was the postmaster in Curry, Minnesota, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Wow.
It was somewhere in southwestern Minnesota. What, Kenny?
Did he marry the gal from the sod hut?
Ooh, good point.
No, because that's my grandmother. This is my great-grandfather.
Okay.
The guy was the postmaster of Curry, Minnesota. This is striking home to me, messing with the mail. I love to play office. I have stamps. I have envelopes. I walk to the mailbox.
Where is Curry,
Don't mess
Minnesota?
with my mail, Trump. Honest to God, leave my mail alone, you person.
Careful. Were you amazed that he just blatantly came out last week and said,
I don't want you to vote my mail.
People to vote.
Yeah. I got a guy in place who's going to screw it up for me.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's you know that mail used to get delivered twice a day?
Wow. No, I didn't.
No wonder they went broke.
Numbers of mailings peaked numbers of mailings peaked in I believe it's either 1985 or 1988. And of course, to me, it's still a miracle that I can put a stamp on an envelope and something gets delivered to somebody in Florida. I know you're all snickering and saying, well,
no, I agree.
Catch up with the times and just do it electronically. I don't want to. Okay? I don't want to.
Curry,
I want to play office.
Right outside of hated Slayton, Minnesota.
Does it still exist?
Well, I just Googled it, and that's what popped up.
I don't think it's on current maps.
Oh.
Does it say anything about the town having gone defunct?
Well, when you click on it, it shows up in Murray Township.
Yeah.
And it does have Rooster's on and off sale liquors right there on Old Highway 38.
Well, he wouldn't have settled there without it. I got news for you.
I got to make him run to
But
Rooster.
the post office snafu is exactly what you talk about with social media, Joe, because there was a guy by the name of Thomas Ken on Twitter, and he's a big Bernie Sanders supporter. He tweeted out a photo taken of Wisconsin. This is happening right before our eyes. It's a stack of all these old mailboxes.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was it's 2 years old, and they're there because they're being refurbished. You moron.
Listen. Spare me your emails pointing out that Trump is doing something wise
You'll
fiscally.
get him, trust me.
No, he's not doing anything wise fiscally. I agree that the post office is in terrible financial condition and has been for years. And Congress hasn't done enough oversight. It's the responsibility of Congress to take care of the Postal Service. Their big problem is the pensions they have to pay out and the fact that people aren't using the mail as much as they used to. But right now, Trump, when there's a pandemic, people with and I'm not a mail-in guy. I don't want to be a mail-in ballot guy. I'm going to the polling place. But I can understand. I know people, many people who are going to vote by mail. On both sides of the aisle. I know many people are going to vote by mail. So don't tell me now is your smartest time to bring in this fixer and then tell me you're going to streamline and fix the post office. No, so far all that's happened is you've delayed the delivery of mail, and you've got postal workers concerned that they're not going to be able to process these ballots. And stop it. Stop it. I get after Mysterians who wreck institutions. Don't you wreck an institution. One of the fondest institutions we have, not to mention, so is voting. Two institutions.
Since this all started, too, it's occurred to me, isn't the Postal Service a service? It's not supposed to be a, quote, profitable company. If it turns a profit, great. But it's a service of the government, right? I mean,
Right. It's quasi-governmental.
What, is it too much to ask for it to pay for itself, John?
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah,
That'd
John.
be good. Don't start.
Well,
with
of
me.
course that would be, but their problems. Look, you can look at the post office and you can see the failings of much of large government. It just
True.
never got taken care of when it should have been taken care of. Too many billions of dollars in pensions are owed these mail carriers, all of whom I get to know, by the way. One of the great fans of our show is Pete the Mailman.
That's right.
And I'm a big fan of the mail, and I'm a big fan of receiving and sending mail. And I'm disheartened that this buffoon would threaten the post office at this time. The timing is what's wrong. 3 years ago, Trump, you could have made it one of the things on your agenda to point out that among the things I'm going to fix here in the swamp is the post office. Okay, great.
Well, but don't you think he's doing it because of the election?
Of course he is.
Well, yeah.
But
so 3 years ago, it
how
didn't
it-
occur to him.
How does that make him any different than any other politician who does the same thing 6 months before an election? Come on,
John. What other politician has slowed down the post office prior to an election?
That was Kenny, not me.
I know. Who is that, Kenny?
I don't mean the post office, but that's what politicians do. They pick a hot button issue and they trot it out before the election, and and they beat it into the ground, and then they get reelected and completely ignore
Hold
it.
on, I
But
gotta.
he's not doing it because it's an issue. That's my point. He's doing it because he wants to make sure. I can see that. On your face.
You know what? All I'm trying to do here is make sure I don't get any of the hate.
Yeah, hold on. I'm talking to IT right now. Can you please forward all show mail to just Joe and John? Thank you.
GLers who appreciate Trump know exactly what I'm saying. And they need to be honest with themselves. He is hiding behind the guise of financially repairing the post office, which, yes, needs financial repair, but his timing is suspect, and he's disingenuous about it, and he's not virtually, he's admitted
it. Yeah.
he's admitted he doesn't want people to vote by mail. And in doing so, he's brought aboard this sharpshooter named LaJoy, or whatever the hell his name is.
Oh, DeJoy.
His name is Louis DeJoy. And they've slowed down the mail, and they've removed mailboxes. They've cut overtime. There's no late deliveries. Hey, people get medicines by mail.
It's so funny that you're against this, but yet you basically agree with what he's saying. I mean, you hate voting by mail.
But he's not the reason, though, I think. Joe's point is,
John, defend me.
Yes,
Defend me.
It's disingenuous. It's dishonest. Yes, I think that's Joe's point.
Yeah.
Dangling a hook in front of him.
Thank you. We got Ode to Joy. There we go. Beethoven. You just happen to have Ode to Joy, Chris?
Well, of all, take it down a minute.
Are we going to get in trouble?
Of all our problems,
I'm already going to get.
Of all the problems that face us, do you really want the loss of a postal service? I don't. I fear that I'll live long enough to live in a cashless society, which terrifies me.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a postless society. So anyway,
there's always that sod hut waiting for you back down, and
that was west of the Twin Cities.
By the way, I want to peel back the curtain. Whoever put this song "Ode to Joy" in the system labeled it ODIE. Odie, like as in Garfield's buddy. Odie to Joy.
Odie Joy.